I've had the Sony A7 III now for the best part of 14 months, just over a year. I thought it was a really good time to do another update video telling you about how it is working out, how I feel about it, any ongoing issues that I've had, any niggling little problems, annoyances, and just a general 1 year, 14 months update of the Sony A7 III. And everything I've talked about still rings true. I'll link all those videos above and below, the ones I've talked about this camera before, the review, the 6-month update, the problems I've had with it. I'll put those all in the description for you. But this is just extra things on top of what I already talked about. Things to reinforce how good of a camera this still is. I know there's a lot of other options out there now. There's Fuji and Canon. The EOS R is getting a lot of attention recently. There's the Nikon Z6, Panasonic SR1, and all those cameras. There's a lot of competition for this now that wasn't out this time last year. So I think it's important to say why this is still a good camera still in 2019. The one thing I will say that still amazes me about this is the battery life. These new Sony Z batteries just last so much longer than the old style batteries in the A6400, which I'm shooting on right now. You can barely get 40 minutes of 4K recording on that. With this, you can easily get an hour and a half, 2 hours. Easily, probably even more. So the battery life really impresses me. If you're shooting photos, you can just go on for over 1,000 easily. I really hope that Sony does continue to use the Z batteries in all future models. I really wish they'd done it with the A6400. I would imagine in an APS-C update, the A7000 or whatever it is, whenever it comes out, it will probably have the Z battery. They'd be stupid not to include it. Now, talking about the A6400, which I'm shooting on right now, it goes very well with the A7 III. The colors match incredibly well, and to use one as an A camera and the other as a B camera, you really can't tell the difference. So they both go really well together. So if you have the A7 III and you're thinking about getting a B camera and you maybe don't have the money for another A7 III, the A6400 is what you need to complement this camera. I wouldn't get the 6300, I wouldn't get the 6500. What you want when it comes to matching colors, for things to look seamless, for things to look the same, 6400, A7 III just go well together. The biggest thing that frustrates me about this camera on a regular basis is its screen. I wish it was higher res like the A7R III. I know they had to cut money and put in a lower res screen, but sometimes I really do wish that it was a much higher res screen. I see people at weddings using their Canon cameras, even Fuji cameras, and the screen is so much higher resolution, it just looks so much nicer. Maybe it's a personal preference, I just wish that it was a higher res screen. The other big annoyance with this, I really need this screen to have an accurate readout of what the exposure actually is. I talked about this before, the main problem I have with the Sony A7 III, the exposure on the screen, it's just not accurate. I honestly don't use it when it comes to weddings now. I'm using the EVF more than anything, or a monitor, because you just can't trust the screen. I still feel the same way. It's the biggest thing that I do not like about this camera. And I know what people are gonna say. They're gonna just say, well, you need to use the histogram. I get it, okay, but it still should work. Having something else to make up for the screen isn't acceptable. The screen should work properly. It should display exposure as it is, not show it being overexposed and it's actually not. So yes, I get it, you can use the histogram, but it should still work properly. At least how I feel, and I'm sure everyone else feels the same. I still wish that it had a flip out screen. The A6400 screen is what I end up shooting a lot of my studio videos on now, because I can see the screen. Right now I can see that I'm still recording, I can see my audio levels, I can see how long I'm recording, and it's just easier, it's more convenient. Can't do that with this, and that's a frustration. I wish this did have it. And I know what you're thinking, well, just use a monitor, and I do use a monitor. I have one right here as well. You can't output what's on the camera screen, as in your audio levels, if it's recording, how long it's recording. That doesn't output to the monitor here. If you're shooting in 1080, great, it works. It's 2019. I like things crispy. I like to shoot in 4K. I used to talk about a lot about how the flippy screen would be really useful for vlogging. I still feel like it would be very useful, and the A6400 is good for vlogging. It doesn't have your IBIS, not a big deal. But I'm starting to come around and starting to trust the auto ISO on this a little bit more when it comes to vlogging. Set my aperture, get the shutter speed at least correct. If I'm using an ND, great. But then I trust the auto ISO, and I'm starting to trust it a lot more, to the point now where I can actually use this for vlogging and not really worry too much. So I am coming around. I do wish it still had a flippy screen. It would be convenient. Not as necessary as I once thought it was when I first got this, but it would still be useful. You kind of get my point. Design-wise, I still love it. I still love how it feels. Grip's good. I haven't been using the Mikey grip, camera grip, with this as much anymore. I've really been liking this small rig half cage. It's a Arca quick release style cage. and you can literally put the camera directly into it, and it just gives it a solid grip on both sides now. It's a big grip this side, big grip this side. Great for video. I can attach all the things that I need to, my mic, my monitor. It's got points for mounting everything, 1/4" threads everywhere. So I've really been liking this with the design of it. It gives it a solid grip for just everything. And then if you want to go and shoot photos as well, you can literally just pop this off, camera's out, good to go. Now I can go and shoot photos to my heart's content. And then when I want to do video, I just pop it back in. So I've been liking this with this. Now I've used it a lot, and I mean a lot. I've traveled with it significantly. I've used it for a lot of weddings, a lot of professional stuff. I've used it for a lot of photography. It's in my bag every day. And I will tell you that other than on the lens ring, where it's a little scratched from lenses being attached and reattached, and on the bottom, I'm not gonna take it off, but where the plate is, the camera still looks brand new. There is not a single mark on this thing at all. It looks in pristine condition. That's just a screen protector on there that I have. I'd recommend you get one of those too. Ports are still great. Haven't had any issues with the microphone jack. I know people have talked about that. I haven't had any issues with it personally. These are all still attached. I do still hate these things. I wish there was a better design for that, but pop them off, pop them back on again all the time, and they still work fine. But yeah, the camera itself still looks brand new. This finish here, very resistive to scratches. I'm not the easiest on my equipment. It does get thrown in and out of my bag. It's on the camera strap or in a cage. I could definitely expect this to be scratched significantly, and it really isn't. So it's held up extremely well after 14 months of solid, serious use. And I say that honestly, it is taken a beating sometimes, and it's still in great condition. When you take this off, the sensor's completely exposed. The big full frame sensor there, you would expect to get a ton of dust in there. I really haven't had that many issues with it. Less than 5 times I'd say I've had to clean the sensor with a swab properly. Maybe even like 3 times. For the most part, a blower gets it all out. I haven't had issues with getting in there. It was one thing I was worried about with a full frame sensor. It's a lot bigger, a lot more space for dust to get on it, gunk to get on it. Haven't had any problems with that. And since my last update, I haven't had any other issues with this whatsoever. I haven't had any problems with it overheating, no problems with it locking up, no corrupted memory cards, no issues with anything related to that. Probably shouldn't have said that. Next video, it's probably all gonna go wrong. Touch wood, don't fail on me now. Still a workhorse, still a really great camera, still loving it in 2019, especially with that 24mm G Master. Definitely still a camera you should consider because it's so good for both photo and for video. You can get other cameras out there that are good for one or the other. This does everything, 1080, 4K video, super slow-mo, 120 frames per second. You can use it for photography as well. It's just an all-around great workhorse, still very relevant, still very, very good in 2019. Since I bought the 24 G Master, which I'm shooting with the A6400 right now, it's kind of rekindled my love for the A7 III. There was a point at which I didn't want to swap to Fuji, but I wanted to pick up a Fuji camera and just try it out. Those colors, everyone's talking about the X-T3, the X-T30. I really wanted to try out. But the thing that's rekindled that connection with the A7 III has been my first G Master to that 24mm f1.4. Kind of fell in love with it all over again. Outside of professional work and when I'm not shooting YouTube videos like this, the 24 G Master stays on that A7 III. I just love the look of it. 24 is a perfect focal length for a lot of photos. I love my wide shots. I just really love it, and it works so well with the A7 III on the full frame. 24 on full frame. So there we go, that is my little update video on the Sony A7 III. As I said before, everything else still rings true. Just wanted to update you on a couple of extra things, experiences, how I feel about this, 14 months on. And yeah, that's that. If you've stumbled upon this video and you're new to my channel, then by now you'll know that I talk about camera stuff. I own an A7 III and A6400. I use all Sony. I do a lot of video, I do a lot of photography. And if you're interested in that stuff, then maybe consider clicking subscribe down below. Otherwise, appreciate you watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. See ya.